Hello, we're back again in Introduction to Religious Studies. We're here for Chapter 2. And make sure that you have your book. This is your book. You can read along with me as I go through Chapter 2. But let's just talk about what we have read. So let's start right here. Ask yourself a few questions. What do you think about religion? Jot that down. What does it mean to you? Throughout this course, we're going to talk much more about why should we even study religion. Tell you the truth, religion has been one of those subjects that has kind of fallen away from colleges. People don't major in it much anymore, and it's really not thought of. But as we go throughout this course, you'll see that it's something that is so pervasive in our nation and in our world. So why not study it? If you look around at the United States, at your city, in your county, we live in such a diverse area. Atlanta metropolitan area is diverse, as well as you just look at America, it is diverse with people and diverse with many different beliefs. And of course, years and years, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they said it was built on Christian principles. But even we see with that, the diversity, we have so many different religions that are practiced in America. And the good thing about it is that they're allowed to practice different religions. Just because somebody is practicing Islam or they are of Jewish faith, nobody's arresting them in this country. You can practice whatever religion you please. And all of those religions and all of those thoughts and all of those ideologies come into play every day when we go to work, when we go to school. Everybody's coming from a different mindset and maybe a different religion. So that's a good way to look at it. We've got to start right there. I want you to also think about this. We're all learning about religion. We may think that we know certain things, but we're really just scratching the surface. Even if we practice a particular religion, we don't know everything about it, but we are practicing and learning about it day by day. So we're co-learners. I'm learning with you. You're learning with me. We're exploring different ways of thoughts and different perspectives. So remember, we don't know 100% about anything, and we are learning together. And I'm learning with you. I'm excited for this particular course. All right, so today I want to talk about just a few things in chapter 2. You'll see that this chapter is not very long, but I want to talk about the academic versus the devotional approach to looking at religion. You'll find this in chapter 2. But the academic look at religion, or the academic study of religion, just says, I'm going to study it. I want to expand my knowledge about it. But you're expanding your knowledge about a particular religion, but you're not giving a particular value to it. You're not saying that, oh, this is good, or this is bad, or this is for me. You're not adopting it in an academic study. Okay, and so an academic study or approach to religion just simply says, how does this religion, how does this affect people, or how does it affect humanity as a whole, or a particular country as a whole? In certain places, let's say in the Middle East, where Christianity may not be as prevalent, the the approach to religion, or the what's the word, the perspective of the people may be through Islam. So they're going to look at government differently. They're going to look at their relationships with their children, with their spouses differently, because they may not have the Western sense of Christianity like we do. Okay, now a devotional approach to religion is more so what we think about religion for ourselves. Whatever it is that you follow, what do you apply to your everyday life? So devotional approach is you're teaching about the religion so the person can apply it to their life, so maybe they can receive salvation, or maybe they become a disciple or whatever in this particular religion. So in the devotional approach, it's more personal. You usually focus on one religion because you're teaching it and you want to be devoted or committed to Christianity or Islam or Judaism or Buddhism, whatever it is. Okay, so I want you to understand the differences in the devotional and the academic approach. Now, for the purposes of our study, and our study for this particular course is we're taking an academic approach to religion. There's nothing wrong with your devotional approach, but for this particular course, we're just taking an educational look at things, okay? All right. So I want to talk to you about, I think it's about 7 different approaches to studying religion. And as I talk about these, I want you to also go back to chapter 2, make sure you read all of the different approaches, because there's so much more information in there that I can get to here on the slide. So the first way to approach religion is through the anthropological approach. It's the big word. And this is how people study other people and how they use their religion. They observe them. They see what the religion means to them. That's what we mean by anthropological, the study of man. So in that particular approach, if you wanted to take that study, maybe you would observe, maybe you would sit at a church, or maybe you would sit at a temple and you would observe what do they do, or what do they say. Maybe you would go to somebody's study of Hindu texts, and you would watch how they interact with the text, and you would be more of an observer. That's what we call the anthropological approach. Ecological approach. Now this talks about how humans interact with their environment. How does the religion change, maybe based on their environment? Now here's the sad part. We can't get into everything in this particular course this summer. But I hope that this course really scratches the surface and piques your interest. For example, in a lot of traditional African religions, our African ancestors already had religion. And when they were moved to the Americas, South America, as well as North America, they had to adapt to the different landscapes that they were in. And so religion took on a different face when they were in South America, or when those ancestors were in New Orleans, as opposed to maybe Maryland or something. So when we're talking about the area, we're talking about nature and how did they adapt to their environment with religion. You see that also a lot with Native American religion as well. Native American religion takes on a lot of ecological approaches because they include nature. All right, here's our third one. This is always a tongue twister for me. Phenomenological approach. It's always a tongue twister. And this is when, phenomenon is the word, and that's when you want to see how this religion has an experience with the people. You look at the actions. What do they do in that religion? So there are certain religions that pray certain times a day. So that's an action. You want to look at that. There may be, here's another action, a pilgrimage where they have to travel. Muslims will travel to Mecca. That would be a phenomenon type of approach. Maybe in the Christian church, you could look at baptism or communion. Okay, that's an experience, so you could study that, right? Psychological approach. This is when the person looks at, or they study emotions or behavior. How do people behave? Now, I'm going to kind of go off on the left on this one. This is when some people study religion and say, well, why do people go off the deep end and start killing in the name of religion? We're going to look at this a little bit when we talk about 9/11 and religion around that time. Or you may think about some of the religions that really kind of, and I say kind of went off the deep end. For example, Jim Jones in the late 1970s led people from California to, I believe it was Guyana. And Jim Jones, the leader, led them in a mass suicide, convinced them to kill themselves because they were going to be closer to God or something. And that's a psychological approach. Now, I know I went off on the end on that one, but on the good side, you could look at the psychological approach and see, how does religion lift people? How does it heal people? There have been studies after study to say that prayer, I'm a witness, prayer changes things. And if you are sick, if that person has a particular type of faith and they lift up prayers, or they have a community of faith around them, that, and it is actually true that people get better, or their healing time has been reduced as opposed to people without faith. Sociological approach, let's look at this one. Look at how religion, this is how the person looks at how religion forms in a society or in the world. Okay, how does it play a part in families? How does it play a part in politics, in the media? Okay. And I want you to pay attention to society now. And we talked about this in chapter 1. When you look at laws, a lot of our laws are based on religion. You know, I think I talked about this in chapter 1. The big debate that we had several years ago about same-sex marriage. Well, the debate was because some people say, well, no, it's not right, it's not right. Where did they get that from? Religion. You know, it formed the mindset and say, hey, well, it's not right. And then others had different opinions. Okay, that's the sociological approach. That's an example. Here are the last two, and I have to say the last two I love. Feminist approach. The feminist approach looks at this through just simply the role of women. And I want you to see the difference between the feminist approach and the womanist approach. But the feminist approach looks at religion, and it looks to see how women have been treated in a particular religion. It studies women in the text, or maybe it studies how women are treated in that religion or not treated. It also, a feminist approach to religion seeks to challenge and maybe change something for women in that religion. Now, I have to admit, I want you to read a lot on the womanist approach in chapter 2. And when you do that, I want you to pay attention to the bibliography. There's some awesome names that you will see in there. There's Dr. Katie Cannon, one of the awesome theologians that come behind the womanist movement. But this particular approach seeks to uplift the black woman's experience. Well, you see, that's the reason why I like this one, right? It seeks to validate black women. It seeks to give a voice to black women, and not just women, black women, but also to her community. It seeks to challenge oppression and classism and sexism, heterosexism, all of that. So what the womanist approach will do is it will look at the church and study certain things and say, well, why weren't women advanced in this or something? Or it may look at a text and say, well, why was this woman quiet? Or why didn't this woman say something in this particular text? Okay. But anyway, those are the 7 approaches to studying religion. I could go on and on and on, especially about the womanist approach. There are a lot of different books that I could suggest to you if you would like to learn more about any more of these approaches. Okay, so that's it for chapter 2. Keep reading and make sure that you keep seeking. See you soon.